to 180, Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Steve Savant. We're broadcasting live from the heart of Phoenix, Arizona on KXXT Family Values Radio. I want to also welcome our online audience on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I want to give a big shout out to Beyond Fear to Freedom, one of the best Christ-centered fellowships that provide a safe and loving community for women in recovery. Just check out their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. And if you're not doing anything Friday night, you should go out there. You'll have to check on their website for the exact address. 5:30 to 6:15, food and fellowship, childcare is provided, and some of the best messaging you'll ever hear. If you have problems, especially if you've been listening to this show, yesterday's show, and you're a gal that's in a terrible relationship, abusive relationship, or you got kids that are bouncing off the wall, they could be of great service to you. I just give you that. Hey, and also, if you want to write me, my email address is steve@180uturn.com. That's steve@180 YOUTURN. And this week, and all this week, we're doing the story on Tracy Kovach. And I just want to say about Tracy's story, it's awesome. And we might have to do an addendum to the show sometime in the future just to get to everything that was in the story. But I wanted to encourage you, again, once the show plays out on radio, on KXXT, I want you to go back out to the internet so you can watch this in succession. So if you're just joining our show Tuesday, you missed a ton. We were at a blistering pace yesterday. So at the end of the week, you can watch the whole thing in chronology. I highly recommend it. I think you'll get a good understanding of Tracy's show. And remember, Tracy's been on TBN. He's been on news. I mean, they think they came into the jail and did a whole show on you. And you weren't even saved at the time, were you?
I wasn't, no.
Oh. And
it's called Inside America's Toughest Jails in Maricopa County Jail.
Right. I mean, we have we have a lot of media traffic, and you can go out there, and I'll try to post that when we post the show. I'll post all those links for you to look at. Tracy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Day 2. I want to say up front, it bothers me deeply of Tracy's childhood and the abuse, the neglect, and the zero love he gets from mom and dad. Sounds like they're just orbiting around themselves, so selfish and assimilated with their own problems and injuries. Maybe that's the way it is. I have similar issues myself, and I just want to extend my own apology to Trace. I'm so sorry that this went down at such a young age. I mean, this is not his brother's fault, his fault. This is total neglect and, in my view, abandonment. So, okay, enough of Steve's preaching. Sorry. Let's go on. Now, when you got to, you guys went back to California.
We did. So we ran away on the motorcycle. It broke down. We got a hold of my mom. She sent us back to California through the welfare. And she was in Barstow. And when we get there, she's running from one of her husbands, big Indian guy. He was probably about 6'9". He used to be a Golden Gloves boxer. And my mom's little. She's like little, 5 foot maybe. Oh. And he used to beat her up, chase her around. We ended up running from there, going to San Diego, California. We lived on the beach for a long time in San Diego, California. And then my mom got a hold of the welfare again, and they sent us to Orange County, to a motel out there. Now I'm starting to build this hatred towards my mother and towards my everything. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to really hate everything and everyone at this point. So
I get that, and I don't know how you put yourself in a position at 14 to actually become raped by a hooker.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even fathom that.
Yeah, in San Diego.
Yeah. I can't even put my arm around that.
Yeah.
And again, I just so sorry for that. But now that you went through these terrible things, your mother is now starting to meet people that are nefarious drug users, addicts, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, she started hanging out with all the bikers, and she hooked up with one of the biker at this motel, and these bikers had taken over the whole motel, doing drugs, beating each other up, knocking each other through walls, stabbing each other. It was just, I'm just sitting back watching this going, wow. Well, this guy introduced me to drugs and alcohol and women, everything. I mean, it was a free-for-all.
I'm trying to imagine, Trace. I'm trying to imagine, like, my dad did a pathetic, but at least he tried, a pathetic job of giving me the sex talk, right? Yeah. Now you're getting this from some of the biker friends on illegal drugs and illicit activity and sex.
Yeah, it was a free-for-all. They had actually ran the landlords out of the motel and everything, just took over the whole place, and it was a very interesting interesting scenario. So I was just off running amok. I remember my mom used to like try to put me on restriction or cuss her out. Tell her, I don't know, I hate your guts. Don't ever try to put me on restriction again. And you never loved me. And those conversations. And
how'd she respond to stuff like that?
She would yell and scream at me to stay in the house, and I would just flip her off and walk out. And I would just go do drugs, and I started hooking up with all of the young kids that were my age doing drugs in that scenario. And we would go out robbing stuff, we'd steal stuff, and sell it to all these bikers that would give us meth and weed and for the stuff that we would steal. So
now I was reading in your story that you had a girlfriend. You were 15, she was 17.
Yeah.
Then later on, you had a girlfriend. She was 22, and you're 16.
Yeah.
So it's all older women, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a freak out of a story.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to touch a little bit on the Disneyland trip.
Oh, first time, the only time I ever went to Disneyland, first time and the last time I went to Disneyland, we had rolled, myself and I called him my cousin at the time, one of my best friends, that I hooked up with. We had rolled about 150 joints. Colombian gold was the thing back in those days, and we took them with us to Disneyland. And on every ride, we were lighting joints and throwing them down to the crowd when we were going across. And we ended up on Tom Sawyer Island. I had my girlfriend, the 17-year-old, and then he had his girlfriend, and we're just walking around having a good time smoking pot. And the Lone Ranger and Goofy arrested us on Tom Sawyer Island. So
I would have thought it would have been better to have Lone Ranger and Tonto, but,
right.
But apparently no.
Goofy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get arrested by the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, so they stopped the ferries from going across. We're on an island. They had grabbed my cousin, and he swallowed the joint that we had. I had all the rest of the weed on me. I ran into these little caves that are on the island, and they took him. We got away, and I put all the weed under the lily pads in the water. But then they stopped the ferries, and they were searching for us, and they found us, and they escorted us to the detention center where his dad, my friend's dad, came and picked us up from there.
Now, you were arrested many times and headed to juvie several times.
Several times.
I mean, several times.
I had police contact about 37 times as a juvenile.
I mean, when you're walking in there into juvie hall, everybody knows who you are.
Well, I never did go to juvenile hall until after I robbed a police officer's house. So.
Okay, you robbed the police officer's house.
I did. So
where's the common sense in thievery? I'm just trying to.
So I'll tell you. So it was. I didn't know it was police. Obviously, if I would have known, I'm just robbing things. Sure. So we had I was with a 21-year-old girl, and my partner was 21, and he was with a 16-year-old girl. I was 16 at the time. And we had a stolen 4x4. I think he had warrants and she had warrants. The 21-year-old girl had warrants, and we wanted to get out of town. We had a stolen Toyota 4x4 stashed away where we needed gas money. So the idea was the 16-year-old girl that we were with said, "Hey, my parents aren't home. Let's go to my house and we'll just get some stuff and sell it and get gas money." Well, it sounded like a good plan. I'm 16. Everything sounded like a good plan. So we get in the house. I told her, "Listen, when we get there, it's your house, right? So we covered the license plate, and I told her to open the garage and do laundry in the garage, and then we'll go in the house and get whatever." And I stacked up all these guns. I was like, first thing I said was, "Where are the guns?" I don't know why I was even thinking that, but I said, "Where's the guns?" She directed me to a closet, and it was full of guns, and I was taking all these guns out and piling them on a pool table by the back door, and there was a chain link fence around the house, and I heard the chain link fence on the side rattle. And then someone banged on the door, boom, 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 police. Well, we climbed in the back bathroom window. When I heard that, I went running. I dove out the back window, rolled on the ground, over the back fence, and took off running. And running and realized nobody was chasing me. So for the next 2 hours, I was at the end of the street looking at the house. Nobody knew I was there because I got away. So I walked by the house a couple times. My partners are all everybody's in the cars cuffed. And there was cops everywhere, and they didn't know I was there. And I thought, okay, so I sit down at the end of the street to see what else was going to go on. And about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, a couple detectives come out of the house, and I'm at the end of the block, and I see them walk out, and they looked around, and they seen me, and they pointed right at me. And I was like, oh, man. I turned around and took off running. They caught me, brought me back to the house, and this detective was just coming to the window and just mad-dogging me like he was going to beat me up. And I asked the officer in the car, why is that guy looking at me like that? He goes, "It's his house." I was like, oh, snap, Fullerton police officer's house. So they actually gave me, they sentenced me to 6 months in jail in juvenile hall. I escaped. Got caught 3 months later, and then they kept me in there till, well, first of all, my mom came in there to see me in juvenile hall because they said they would release me to her. And she whispered to me that I frauded the welfare and I'm leaving state. I can't get you. And I'm like, dude, I don't care what you did. You're a fraud anyways. Just get me out of jail before you leave, and so I can get away. But she turned around and walked out and left me there. And I sat there until I was 18
Now
years
you
old.
spent 6 months there.
I sat there until I was 18.
So you were there for a
yeah,
bit.
I stayed in there till my 18th birthday.
Now, you discovered what we call in prison the iron pile.
The iron pile, yes. I was
The weights. Why is this so important? I'd like the public to know. Why is this so important to you guys?
to me, it was just I wanted to be big, and I wanted to be mean, and I was tired of being abused, and I was just didn't want to go through it anymore. So I thought if I get big enough and mean enough, then nobody will abuse me anymore. So that's all I did was lift weights, and I was so mad. I hated my parents. I had this complete hatred towards them. I always, when people would talk to me about my parents, I would always say that I was going to find them, torture them, and kill them. That's what my thoughts were in my head, because I hated them so bad because I felt like they did that to me.
You know, the whole issue of mom and dad at the level of wanting to take your parents out. And if you heard his story in Monday, I mean, this is where a lot of our kids are living. Listen, living on the iron pile, 17 years old, and you're 205 and no fat. Wow, you're a stud. So this is how drive people. I need to protect myself. I'm doing all these things. This is a heck of a story, I have to say. And I just ask you right now, if you're going through these things, you could find God in such a way that you could enjoy what Tracy and others have come through this show could enjoy. We'll be right back with more of Tracy's show right after the break. I want to pick it up right around there. I'm going to try to get as much as I can. So we're still in the second.
Every Friday night, like-minded women gather together to share a meal and their stories, how they broke the destructive cycles in their lives by the power of God and moved on to a new life in Christ. For more information about Friday nights, just go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. If you can't get to BFF on Friday nights, or you don't live in the Phoenix area, you can stay connected by joining BFF's Subscribe Tribe, where you'll receive their weekly study guide, so you can track with them online. Just sign up today on BFF's website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. And don't forget to listen to BFF's weekly video podcast with Debbie G and Sheridan. Their own life experiences and their biblical influence will overhaul your thinking, your identity, and your future. They'll keep you encouraged with some great insight and biblical truth. Just friend them on Facebook or go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. BFF, where you might just discover a best friend forever.
Well, welcome back. I'm Steve Savant. You're listening to 180 U-Turn. Our special guest, I'd say super special guest, Tracy Kovach. Tracy, your story is unbelievable, and I just absolutely detest your upbringing and your parents' complete neglect and desertion of you, in my view. That's what I think. Now, listen, if you're not doing anything Friday night, don't forget you can head out to BFF and check out their Friday night meeting. Starts at 5:30 to 6:15 for food fellowship. Childcare is provided, and great messages. And especially if you're hearing stories that you're hearing from Tracy, and you say, I've done that. My gal has done that. My kids are doing that. My grandkids. This is a time to get with people that you can hook up, connect with, and help you out. There's no way you can do this. Once we go at the level that Tracy and I are talking about this next segment, you have to have help.
Absolutely.
Some people my friend says, Steve, pray for my kid in jail. I said, maybe he needs to stay there.
Yeah.
Because you can't handle it. You and your husband, they've deserted. Now, I want to get back into this whole thing about, you realize, hey, I'm getting big. I got dukes.
Yeah.
I have strength, and I'm not going to take it anymore. And even if I take it on the chin a few of my early fights until I learn what I'm doing, right? Because there's a learning curve to fighting. Heck, I'm doing it.
Yeah. So I got big on my 18th birthday. I got released from juvenile hall, and I went on a mission. So in my head, my mission was to rob drug dealers that were selling drugs to women on welfare and kids, trading drugs for food stamps. I thought it was kind of my way of, because I felt, first of all, I hated my parents' guts because I felt like I was stuck in this world that I didn't belong in. I didn't want to be in this world. But I thought if I'm going to be stuck in this world, then I'm going to try to give back the best I could. So, but at the time, I was using so much meth and weed and just all day long, every day. And when I first started doing meth and doing drugs, back when I was 15, 16 years old, I mean, it felt like I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof. So when I got out at 18 years old, I started robbing drug dealers. So then I realized, like, the first couple of people I went in their house and got loud and it scared them. I'm talking, I'm 18 years old. I'm talking guys that are 37, 38 years old that are dealing drugs and think they're all that. And it gave me this sense of power. So,
well, my astonishing thing was when the police found out that you were kind of doing this, they were kind of maybe looking the other way.
Yeah. Nobody knew what I did. I mean, for years and years, I did that in California. I went to prison multiple times in California.
Now, jail or prison?
Well, jail and prison.
Jail and prison.
Yeah.
So how much time did you spend in California in prison?
In prison, let's see, 4, 5, 6. In prison, probably about 6 years, I want to say.
6 years,
6 or 7 years, somewhere like that.
Now,
so I've been to Folsom, Soledad, Solano, Vacaville, Chino, Avenal.
I've been to 2 of those. On the other side of the fence.
Right.
Okay, so your whole life is now. Is this your main income? Because you're not really working.
Yeah, it's my only income. Yeah.
So it's all dope.
Yeah.
And you're living still in California at this time?
Still in California on the street, and I would live with girls and move in with girls, and then rob all their friends, and I was pretty much homeless, and I would just move from house to house. I just knew that I was going to get arrested again, so I would just go until I got arrested. I would have to go see POs and all that stuff. I never did, so I'd have warrants, so I knew if I got pulled over. I mean, it's just this ongoing cycle that just lasted all the time.
So when you did get arrested for your warrants, you had to do another 8 months, right, just for that?
Pretty much, yeah, always in jail, always in the county jail in different counties.
For people listening, I mean, you come from a terrible background as a child. And now it's just in and out of jail and doing serious. 6 years is the front end of more time you're going to do.
Right.
So, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. How do you deal with this? This is no way to live.
Well, it was just my life. I felt like my life was just so messed up it could never be fixed. So I was just going to make sure that wherever I was at in life, I was going to make sure that I was taken care of. So that was my main goal in life. So
And then you met some of America's finest, the few, the proud, the Marines. Talk about that. That story is awesome.
Yeah, 1987. So I got arrested for collecting a car from this guy that he owed money to some dealer in San Diego. I was living in Orange County. I took a car from him and I drove it to San Diego. I got there about 2:30 in the morning. Went the wrong way on a one-way street right in front of 5 police officers because all the bars were closing. They pulled me over. The guy already told on me, so I went to jail. They gave me a year in jail for Grand Theft Auto, and then I talked these camp ladies into sending me to a fire camp by the border of Mexico, and I escaped. So I left there, and I was in the middle of nowhere, and I'm walking through. I'm like miles and miles from anything, and I'm walking in the woods, and there's a trail way back in the woods, and I run across about seven guys back there. They were Marines, and they're getting drunk and high, and they looked at me startled, like we were going to fight or something, and I told them, hey, I just escaped from this jail and blah, 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 and they were all happy about that. They're like, oh, that's awesome, dude. Here's a joint and some this and that. They gave me right all the way back to Orange County. They made me shave my face. They put a USMC shirt on me so that when we went across the border check, that I looked like one of them, and the cops just waved us off, and we went through, and they gave me right all the way to Orange County. So,
boy, I don't hope we didn't tip anybody to any new special camouflage.
Yeah.
So you got to. They were kind of nice to you, though.
They were, yeah.
Okay, so then you continued to get arrested.
Yeah.
As an adult. Now we're adult. Time.
Yeah.
Now we're adult.
Back-to-back arrests. Just. There's so many different things. I started running drugs to all these hotels along Commonwealth in Buena Park, and just took over everything. Just started beating people up, punching people in the face for no reason at all, knocking people out, taking people's stuff. That's all I ever did.
How much is that? Is you being anger, or you being on meth, or a combination of both?
A combination of both. Just a number. Just everything. It was just I didn't care. I didn't care if I lived or died. It didn't matter to me. So
people tried to kill you, right?
They did. Yeah.
Stabbed. Shoot at you. Shot
twice. Stabbed 7 times. So, I mean, it just went on and on. And like I said, I didn't care if I lived or died. It didn't matter because it didn't even matter. I didn't care. But I thought to myself that nobody's ever going to get the upper hand on me ever again in life. So I would always attack them first. And hey, believe me, there's times I thought I was going to die in situations that I ended up living anyway. So I know now that God was protecting me. So
when you went to Vacaville, there's another hotel.
Vacaville was a whole
other issue. You were actually placed in the hole. Was that your first? I think that was, if I read your story, was that your first time you ever did time in the hole?
That was the first time, yeah, actually. Yeah. So I was placed in the hole there because I was supposed to be going to Solano, which is right next door, and we got caught in the paperwork and ended up in Vacaville. And not anybody that's ever been to Vacaville, it's back in the 80s. It's just a whole. It's a huge yard, and they have all the SMI population there. They have the seriously mentally ill population. They call them J-cats out there because their number starts with a J, so they would call them J-cats. And then you had the AIDS patients there that were. I mean, it was a very interesting yard. You had it was just a free for all. Was
it actually a seg yard then?
It was a medical yard.
Yeah,
but they had a general population there. They had one unit that was general population. When they realized that I was not supposed to be on that yard, they came and snatched me up, threw me in a hole until they got my paperwork straight and then sent me. Actually, what they called it was a psych eval. So they threw me in the hole to give me a psych eval. The doctor was like, "There's nothing wrong with you," and I'm like, "I told you there's nothing wrong with me." And so they sent me over to Solano. So
now, when you got there, did you settle in, or how much time did you do there?
I don't remember how long I was there. I wasn't doing long stretches of time. I was probably there for a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years altogether, probably in both of those. So.
Well, I noticed that you did a lot of what I would call hit that trailer park in your story of robbing the guys from their own marijuana.
Oh yeah. So because in my head I was just being a vigilante. I was just thought, you know what, I'm gonna start. And people knew. I mean, when people would go complain to like bikers and people that were running stuff, they would say, "Hey, Tracy Kovach robbed me." And they're like, "Well, what'd you do to him? You had to have done something wrong. Were you selling drugs to women on welfare, kids? What did he do?" Because he's not just robbing people for no reason.
So they know your MO.
Yeah, they knew my MO. They were like, he's robbing people that are doing things wrong. And well, I had this guy. So this is a long story. I'm going to try to make it short. But so I went to go rob this guy that was dealing drugs, and I heard. People used to come to me all the time and say, "Hey, so-and-so is doing drugs in front of his kids," just to get me riled up so I would go rob them if they had some kind of problem with them, until I got hip to that later on in life and stopped listening to people. But anyways, I go to this junkyard to rob this guy, and I was told his kids are right there. He's doing drugs in front of his kids. He was this big meth dealer, and I went there and just checked out some cars. I went there like a customer. The place had just closed, but I dropped a couple names, told him I was a friend of so-and-so, and he let me on this property, and I was with a friend of mine, and we went through the junkyard, and I was just watching everything that was going on. He invited us to dinner in his house. So we went in there, and his wife made spaghetti. I remember what she made. She made spaghetti, and the kids knew nothing about it. They were doing their homework at the table. It was like this family, and I was like, I called my partner over to the side, and I was like, "Hey, I don't think this is accurate information." So I actually pulled the guy outside and I told him, "You know what, we actually came here to rob you because we heard you were doing drugs in front of your kids." He goes, "My kids don't know nothing about anything I do when it comes to drugs." I go, "Well, we were coming here to rob you because so-and-so told us you were doing all this." He goes, "Well, so-and-so has got somebody living at this other house," and so he gave me a map of this other house, said they're growing crops of weed in this lady's house and her kids are there at that house and they don't know anything about these crops of weed being grown. So I go to that house. So we go to that house to go take care of these guys that are in a back room. But I was told that the mother and the kids don't know anything about these guys growing crops of weed in the back of their house. They were just renting a room from them. So I thought, okay. So when I went in the house, but I was also told that her husband had a gun. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't get shot. Well, I'm trying not to get shot at this time when I sneak into the house. And so yeah, when I sneak into the house and I slide the sliding glass door open, have my gun out, see somebody sitting on a chair looking at TV, came around the corner, and it was a 14-year-old boy. And I put my gun away, and he escorted me. I kept told him, "Where's your mom?" Because now I'm not trying to get shot or killed.
Yeah, I would say not getting shot is a big priority.
Yeah.
Listen, again, if you're not doing anything Friday night, head out to beyondfeartofreedom.org for their 5:30 to 6:15 food fellowship and the greatest message you'll ever hear. They're really great sisters over there. They know what they're doing. Listen, I'm Steve Savant. And so until next time, remember, no one's outside the reach of God. No, not one.